What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another build video for Axton the Commando. Today I did want to take a look at just a generalist Axton build, not one that is limited by having to only use, certain manufacturers or only focused on grenade damage. This is just going to be a build using, a lot of really good weapons and good class mods and stuff like that, that again doesn't have limitations of some of the other builds I've done with Axton in the past. I will be doing Digistruct Peak. This is going to be the end of the Digistruct Peak arc, sort of. I've got a Sniper Zero guide coming. I'll probably cover the peak on it, and that will have me having like 3 0 peak runs, 2 Axton and 2 my runs. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get into the gear here. I don't know what I'll call this, maybe just something like Chaotic Soldier Axton, because it doesn't really have a general theme. It's like I said, just kind of showing what Axton is capable with whenever he doesn't have any limitations. I won't make extensive use of Torg or TDR weaponry because I've done builds with those a lot, or the fastball. I'll use them some, but it's not going to be the primary focus of the build. But anyway, let's get into the gear here. So we're just going to be using good weapons like the Lauda. I'm going to use the Omen. This is a really great shotgun, and it does happen to benefit from grenade damage bonuses, but it's also just a good weapon in general. I'll throw on a Slag Pimp and a Slagga for slagging tools. You can download this save file in the description if you want. This will be perfect parted gear, but in the actual gameplay, I didn't use perfect gear for the most part. Yeah, Bada Boom, excellent rocket launcher. The Blockade, it's my favorite shield. I also threw on a B shield. Fastball, Quasar, Chain Lightning, Slag Transfusion. I'll throw all that stuff on there. I mostly just use the Fastball and the Longbow Slag Transfusion Grenade. And then the 2 class mods. Mainly we're going to use the Soldier because it's just Axton's best class mod. I will throw on a Veteran in case you guys want to do some TDR chucking. The great thing about not doing a TDR Allegiance build is you can still TDR chuck whenever you need to DPS, a strong tanky target. But your entire build won't be dependent on that ammo source, right? So if there's an enemy you need to take out really quickly, you can just swap over to the Veteran and swap over to the Plasma Caster and just chuck away at him. I did that. I also threw on the Chaotic Evil Ranger. We'll mostly be using these two, the Legendary Soldier and the Chaotic Evil Ranger. The Chaotic Evil Ranger is kind of like a mini soldier. You can see it gives critical damage and fire rate, and then you can get it to roll with +6 grit and +5 impact. That's what I consider to be the best version of it. You can swap over to this one whenever you're dealing with something hard like Dukino's mom, or if you're about to die or something, and you'll get a 44% chance for grit to proc, which is just insane. But yeah, those will be the main 2 class mods. For relics, I just use the Bone of the Ancients. It's just the best relic in the game in my opinion. And I'll also throw in some Heart of the Ancients for stuff like the Unicorn Explosion, Explosive Relic, Stockpile Relic. But mainly, this is what the main setup is going to be consisting of. And here are just some good weapons in general, good weapons for Axton. Peak Opener I use a little bit, Lead Storm, Omen, Tunguska's for selling for money, Avengers, Conference Call, Lauda, Hornet, this does benefit from grenade splash damage bonuses, Herald, Slagga for slagging, Plasma Casters for chucking, Creamer, that's an excellent rocket launcher, Lady Fist especially, that's a really excellent weapon, the Hell, Sandhawks, all that kind of stuff. And then a quick look at the skills. I don't think I need to go over these in depth every single time. I think you guys pretty much know how I like to do this. I did spec into Scorched Earth. It's decent damage for 1 point, although the visual pollution can be a little bit annoying. But with how tanky the enemies are, I did want to go ahead and take it. I did spec into Steady because we will be using some gear that benefits from it, but not all of the gear will. I did put 1 point in Impact to activate the class mod, 4 points in Expertise, and then that will allow us to move down the skill tree. Expertise is one of my favorite skills in the game. 10 points in Preparation, this will be really good. I did put points into Last Ditch Effort just because death is really punishing on the peak. So if I get downed, I did want a better chance to get back up. If you wanted to, you could move these 5 points into Healthy, but I think for stuff like Dukino's mom, she's just going to obliterate you regardless. So Flank Shield, this is good because you can throw it down in front of yourself to gain a little bit of cover if an enemy has a line of sight on you, even though the shields do go down pretty fast. 4 points in Forbearance for dot removal. Like I said, 5 points in Grit, and then we've got Gemini, double slag turrets. And then let's go ahead and see what it looks like with the Chaotic Evil Ranger. So this will again give us +6 to impact with a single skill point, and +11 or 11 total points in Grit is just incredible. Grit can proc even if you're above Health Gate, so Health Gate and Grit work independently of each other. And what this means is that Grit will literally activate sometimes even when you can't die. And if you do get Health Gated, Grit has a chance to activate every single time you get damage. So I was thinking something, if you guys watched my Axton rating video, whenever I beat Hatterax with Axton, I didn't even have to use a Moxie weapon because what would happen is I had points in Grit, and Hatterax would keep hitting me with all that volley of kunai. but I would just get health gated, and because I was getting hit with so many damage instances, Grit would just activate and save me like every single time. So really great skill. I would recommend throwing on the Chaotic Evil Ranger when you're dealing with harder stuff like Dukino's mom, or maybe the section with the assassins in Digistruct Peak, or just, you know, maybe if you're just anytime you're in trouble, right? No bar, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the gameplay. Alright, and here we are with the gameplay section. I'm sure you guys are starting to get tired of all the Digistruct Peak builds, but I did want to go ahead and get this one out because I recorded this a while back, actually. But this has been, you know, several Digistruct Peak builds I've done, so I'm sure you guys are ready for me to get back to other parts of the game, and I will be doing that with my next build video. I just wanted to get, you know, a few runs in and get a couple runs in with each of the characters I play. In this run, I did use the B-Shield for Dukino's mom and the double Saturns. However, if you want to see a run not using that, I will link to my previous Axton run on the Peak where I did not use the B-Shield. I will also drop a save file for download for that TNT Axton build, because I don't think I put one up for it yet. I'm going to go back and upload save file downloads for all of those build videos. I'm going to try to get that done this week. But yeah, just because, you know, like in the past, some people did ask for bossing content, and if a build can take on Digistruct Peak, it's going to be good for bossing. Now, whenever I do go back to other parts of the game, I'm just going to incorporate, you know, boss fights from those parts of the game. Like I said, I wanted to do a build with Axton that wasn't limited by, you know, only having access to one manufacturer, or only, you know, focusing on weapons that had grenade splash damage. And different stuff like that, because Axton is a very good character. You know, people do tend to underrate him, and you can see how quickly we're just able to tear through these enemies. He has, you know, a good mix of damage and a good mix of survivability, so he's a very, very good character. His turrets are so good, they provide so much utility, and he is very good on Digistruct Peak. He might not have access to something like Critical Ascension, but just as a generalist character, he's very good. And Grit is awesome. Grit is such a great skill, especially, like I said, boosted with that Chaotic Evil Ranger comm. Really, really excellent. See right there, I'm not used to dealing with bullet deflection because of Zero has Bore, so I did end up getting down there. But I wasn't worried because I knew I'd be able to get back up really easily. Axton can get out of fight for your life really easily. Thanks to Do or Die especially, if you get downed while you have the fastball equipped, it's very easy to just, you know, fastball an enemy. Axton can also take out the surveyors with the fastball. See, that's another great thing about his turrets. You can throw them to block enemies when they spawn so they can't move. It's especially good for the surveyors because they're just so annoying. The Hornet, again, excellent weapon. Axton is really efficient with it because it does benefit from grenade splash damage bonuses. It's just a really fun weapon to use. It's a really, really good weapon. It's also good for the surveyors. And here I did get the terrible Scorch spawn where they spawn with 6 surveyors for some reason. Just don't know what Gearbox was thinking there. It is 6, right? Or is it only 4? It might have just been 4. Wait, I'm pretty odd. I don't know, man. I completely forgot already. Regardless, they spawn way too many surveyors. And, you can see, whenever they fly at you in a straight line like that, you can take them out with an accurate fastball throw. So that's just what I try to do. The Hornet, again, is pretty good for him. Now, another great thing about Axton's turrets are you can throw them, like, up on a wall, and if the enemies will aggro on them, that gives you a great opportunity to DPS them. Oh, I forgot about the electric chair. I will put the electric chair in the save file as well. You can see it did a ton of damage there. The electric chair basically has a sweet spot where if you throw it right, it will, you know, deal a ton of damage. Alpha has a video covering this. I will link to his video so you can check that out. And here, again, because I knew I was about to end this section, I just went ahead and emptied out all my ammo with the TDR chucks there, which is another advantage to this build. And then we'll just use the Lyuda, because the Lyuda has great DPS. Again, not being locked to a TDR build, you can just TDR chuck all that ammo, and then, you know, swap over to the other weapon types. But here we are with the Dukino's mom section. We did get the spawn where a few enemies spawn in first. And again, the Omen, it's just such a great shotgun. It's one of my favorite shotguns. It's good on all characters. It's especially good on Axton because it does get those grenade damage bonuses. Both the weapon damage itself and the reload throw benefit from that. It does drop from the Ancient Dragons. I have a video farming them if you want to check it out, and I cover some easier methods for beating them. For Dukino's mom, so I haven't tested if she can be slagged yet. I've seen mixed things, so I'm just going to test it myself. But again, this is old footage, but I will test that soon. But anyway, I was just trying some different things here. The B-Hawks seem to be the most effective. There is a way that you can kind of lure Dukino's mom into the corner and throw grenades at her. I was not really aware of that method. Squeak has covered that in one of his Axton Digipeak runs. I will link to that if you guys want to check that out. But we just go ahead and take her out with the B-Hawk. I did use the Chaotic Evil Ranger for that section because, you know, Dukino's mom is really dangerous and I wanted as much survivability as possible. The Lauda, an excellent weapon. You don't have to sweet spot with the Lauda to deal good damage with it, but, you know, obviously if you can, that is good. Sometimes I just prefer to stay back, because sometimes if you close distance enough to actually get to the point to where you can sweet spot, then you'll kind of be in more danger. So you can use it either way. If you want to get closer to an enemy to sweet spot, you can go ahead and do that. But if you want more safety, again, the Lauda can deal good damage, you know, just even without, you know, sweet spotting with it. Now, it is very good if you can sweet spot like the Black Queens with it and stuff, so you can take them out more quickly. So that's another option, especially, you know, if you're not... Obviously, you can just B-Hawk them and stuff if you're using the B-Shield. But like I said, I wanted to limit my use of it, so I did only use it on the Saturns and Dukino's mom. And again, I didn't use it in that first Axton Digistruct Peak run, so you can check that out if you want. I think my next build video will probably be... It's a really fun Zero build that I call Hunter Titan Zero. It's kind of like a hybrid sniper launcher build, which sounds kind of weird, but it's actually really effective. And I think I'll probably take on some of the enemies in Hammerlock's Hunt, because some people kind of struggle with them. Because one thing I like to do with my content is to help show people how to deal with some unconventional enemies like that, like the ones in Tiny Tina's Dragon Keep DLC as well. So I'll be getting back to covering that content. I'm also going to do some for the Commander Lilith DLC, because there's a lot of tough enemies there. A lot of people don't like the enemies in the Dragon Keep DLC, but they love the DLC itself. So I do like to show some methods for dealing with them. Melee builds are good there. The skeletons are weak to melee damage. Torg weapons are good there. TDOR builds are good there. Different stuff like that. So I'll definitely be covering more stuff for dealing with them. And then the Hammerlock DLC I really like. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's one of my favorite DLCs. And for the enemies, like again, Melee Zero is really good there. I'll probably cover some of that eventually too. But yeah, launchers are always good for annoying enemies like that. Launcher-based builds, grenades, the fastball, different stuff like that. Like I said, I'll be covering some different stuff for that. I'm also going to do a heavy trooper Axton build that is a launcher and, you know, grenade-focused build. So those are kind of my upcoming plans. I'm not sure what order these videos will come out in. I've got another weapon review coming. Oh, so you see, block that. Actually, I guess I just blocked that with my body because I miss with the turrets. You can also block them with your body as well. But be careful, they can start shooting before they spawn in, so... But yeah, you can see Axton, not a bad character at all. We're able to take these guys out pretty quickly. The Sandhawk is also an excellent SMG without the B-Shield. It's actually one of the highest DPS SMGs even without the B. It's just obviously, with all the unlisted projectiles, it's even better with the B. And this is not a flying one, by the way, I don't think. You know, people torture themselves into farming, like, perfect gear, which is just crazy to me. Like, it's one thing if you just enjoy farming, but, you know, a lot of people will, like, kill themselves to get, you know, a perfect Sandhawk. Which, to me, I just don't have the patience for. An element and, like, a halfway decent accessory is usually good enough for me. Or even just an element and a matching grip with no accessory. I've got a lot of those. I don't think I have a single flying Sandhawk. You really don't need them. Zero and Mai especially don't, because they can boost projectile speed. The other characters don't even really need a flying Sandhawk for raiding, because most raid bosses are either so big or so slow, you can just, you know, properly aim and time your shots to take them out. Obviously, you know, the flying Sandhawk is the best, but yeah, not a lot of situations where it's that necessary. But yeah, you can see Axton is able to work through these enemies pretty easily. I have actually seen some people say that Axton can't really do the peak, which is just crazy. It's probably just related to people not finding him to be, or thinking that he's not a good character, which is obviously not true. So I forgot to talk about the Becca. Yeah, I will put the Becca in the save file as well, and an Assault Rifle Heart of the Ancients, so that'll be another great tool for him. I forgot to mention that in the intro, but yeah, I will make sure to put the Becca in the save file. And like I said, the Assault Rifle Heart of the Ancients. The Heart of the Ancients, again, another really great relic. Will give you a good damage bonus and good survivability bonuses, which, especially for the peak, would be really nice. The Boneheads do drop the Bone Shredder, so keep an eye out for that. Very excellent SMG. Bada Boom, one of my favorite rocket launchers. It's pretty hard to get because King Mong is not a guaranteed spawn, but I've had better luck getting it from Hatterax. God, I miss so many fastballs, man. I'm gonna start streaming soon. Before I start the 0-1 to OP10 series, I'm gonna do some kind of test or practice streams at first. The first streams I'm gonna do are gonna be raid boss farming, and I'll probably farm Hatterax at first, or early on. We'll see. I don't know if he'll be the first one I do. But Hatterax is just a great way to get a lot of weapons that are, you know, hard to get, like the Bada Boom or different stuff like that. The Conference Call, Shredifire. Some of those weapons are definitely too hard to get. So you can see I did switch to the Expert Veteran for the chucking potential. And again, it's just nice not having to worry about running out of ammo because you do have all these other weapon types at your disposal. Swap back to the Legendary Soldier here. This section is pretty much an afterthought. It's not even really a section. But you take them out, and then the Assassin's Arena, like I've said before, you guys know I consider it to be the hardest part of the peak. And if you can past that, you're usually going to win. The peak opener, incredible damage. If you can get an enemy to stand still, it'll just absolutely eviscerate them. Peak opener pairs with the easy shield and the hard carry, I believe. And on Digistruct Peak, they're really good. You get like, what is it, like 2 minutes and Fight for Your Life and some other bonuses. So I'll probably do and like Axton the Immortal build eventually for Digistruct Peak that uses that stuff, because that is another excellent way to take on the peak. Like I said, I'm going to take a break from Digistruct Peak. I've been doing it a lot recently. I'm not sure if I mentioned when that weapon review will come out, but I've also got the Sniper Zero guide. That'll be out soon, and then that Melee Zero montage, gameplay montage of bossing and stuff. It won't just be bossing. I am going to take on like some enemies in the Hammerlock DLC. I probably won't do the Dragon Keep enemies because I already did them in my original Melee Zero guide. But I do want to get back to focusing on, you know, showing people good ways of dealing with those enemies. Because a lot of those unconventional enemies, they're very hard if you try to approach them with, you know, conventional gun setups. But there are multiple strategies for dealing with them, so I do want to check that out. Also, guys, I only play Zero, Axton, and Maya. I don't play Krieg or Gage. They're both interesting characters to me, and I do want to learn them, so I will eventually be making content for them. But for now, I don't. If you guys want to see Krieg and Gage content, I would highly recommend checking out Squeak Cheesetaker. He is covering both of those characters. Also, Stereo Lotus does Gage content. I think he's planning on doing more, so I'll link both of their channels in the description if you guys want more Gage content. Eventually, I will be covering those characters, like I said, but for now, there's just too much other content I need to make first. There's so much other stuff I want to do. I've wanted to get the Sniper Zero guide out for a long time. I've wanted to do more Zero speedruns. The only two raid bosses I practice speedrunning are the Dragons and Terramorphous. So I want to do some more of them too. It's just I haven't had the time, and there's just too much other content I want to get out first. But after I get caught up on the content I want to do, that Sniper Zero guide, the Melee Zero video, a couple more build videos and stuff. Eventually, that is some other stuff I want to get back to. Now, this area is really easy because you have access to an ammo vendor, so you can just take out enemies over and over with the fastball or just launchers, and you can just keep going back and buying ammo. For Digistruct Peak, if you're playing DigiPeak on OP10, you do want to bring stuff to sell for money because ammo is so expensive on OP10. Because you can actually end up in a situation where you just run out of ammo and then you don't have money to buy more ammo because it's so expensive. Especially if you don't have a good way of like taking out the Saturns. If you're not using a B-Shield or something, they just take an insane amount of ammo. In that TNT Axton build, I used the Peak opener and I just mag dumped over and over again with no B-Shield. And it took forever, but it did get the job done. Complained about Saturn a lot in previous videos, so I'll try to not do that this video. But yeah, this section has an ammo vendor, and then the next section doesn't, but it has a ton of ammo crates. But if you clear it, then the section after that does also have an ammo vendor. So again, once you make it to this point, you're probably going to beat the peak. But it's just a case of being careful so that you don't have to start all the way over, because like I've said before, in most areas of the game, death isn't punishing, but if you get this far into the peak and die, it's going to be really frustrating. In some ways, death is punishing, like I've said before, the raids, it can be punishing. Or if you're like doing those final circles of slaughter and you die once you almost complete them, that's really annoying. So there are definitely exceptions. But I do think it's important to remember how forgiving certain aspects of this game are when people consider it to be so extremely difficult. Because, you know, you've already got Health Gate, which saves you a lot of the time, and then you've got Fight for Your Life on top of that. And then, you know, even if you fail to manage your health, and you fail to get a second wind, for most of the game you just respawn. Like some bosses that have multiple phases don't even get their first phase back. Like I know off the top of my head, the Handsome Sorcerer, like if you get him to his final phase and then die, he doesn't even go back to his first phase. So in some ways, the game is very forgiving even on OP10 because of certain mechanics like that. Not to say that it's easy, I'm just saying. Anyway, the fastball is so fun to just chuck them and take out those surveyors. When you can hit them, sometimes I miss because I'm my athleticism is not holding up, I guess. Now, I was trying to focus on taking out this constructor before he spawned a bunch of crap. But you gotta be careful. If you expose yourself too much to go up there and risk doing more damage, then you can just end up dying. So you gotta be really, really careful. So you can see there, I was not sweet spotting with the Lauda because I was just choosing to prioritize my safety. Now, I probably would have been okay to close distance because, like, I had that turret there to get a second wind. But for me, I usually prioritize playing more defensively over taking more risks, and that's part of the reason that I die so rarely. I think in all of the videos I've uploaded, I've only died, like I remember for mobbing sequences, I think the only time I died was on the Carnage review and I got knocked off the map. I've died more in like raid bossing videos and stuff. But for the most part, if you have a really defensive playstyle, you can minimize deaths. And, you know, on the other end, if you just enjoy playing more aggressively, you can just, you know, take advantage of Fight for Your Life and just accept that you'll occasionally die, which is, you know, not a big deal. Last section here, I got a pretty easy spawn pattern. Some of the spawns here can be pretty hard to deal with because if a bunch of tough enemies spawn, they can kind of corner you, and it can be pretty tough. But it's not too bad for the most part. Just make sure you're being careful. Taking enemies out quickly is always rewarding in this game because it can help prevent you from getting overwhelmed. Just as you increase your skill level and you learn to take out enemies faster, that is actually going to be one of the best ways to survive in this game. Alright, and here we are with the binary boss. Now, if you guys watched my previous Axton video, I slag locked the binary boss. Make sure you don't attempt to slag him until he's fully spawned in. And that means don't throw your turrets either, because your turrets can slag. Because if you slag him before he's fully spawned in, that will do the slag locked bug where they become totally immune to slag, and you'll only be dealing 1/3 damage. So see, again, here's what I'm talking about. Since I'm not, you know, using a Tediore focused build, I can just equip the Expert Veteran and chuck all my ammo with the Plasma Caster, and then swap back to my other great weapons. and doing so I was able to deal a ton of damage to the binary boss, making kind of easy work of him here. I'm actually not sure why he's like idling like that. That's pretty strange behavior. Don't often see him do that. Now at this point I probably should have swapped my class mod. I may have just forgot. I'm not really sure why I didn't. But I assume, yeah, I probably just forgot. Again, Pimpernel, good choice for dealing damage to him. I'm pretty sure you can get a second wind off of his mounted turret if you need it. Or you can just kill it, you know, as soon as it spawns. So see, I did swap to the Legendary Soldier. And then just mag dumping with the Peak Opener. You know, again, if an enemy will stand still, it can deal pretty good damage to them. The binary boss is pretty tanky. I don't think he's that tanky. So he might resist shock damage a bit, or I might have forgot to equip my shock bone. So see those missiles there? That's what you gotta be careful of, and I took a dot. So just be careful here because he can kind of catch you off guard. So I swap over to my Chaotic Evil Ranger to get the max points and grit, which is really nice. So again, the binary boss, he's not too difficult, but he does have like the ability to apply a dot to you, or those missiles can seek you out and cover. So just be careful, because you know you're probably gonna rage if you make it this far and die. But yeah, grit, super great for survivability. Again, because it can proc even when you couldn't die, even when you would be protected by health gate. And health gate actually benefits grit a lot, because I assume like if you take a dot that would kill you, you'll get health gated, and then for every time you take damage, grit will have a chance to proc. So like I've noticed some crazy grit chains in circumstances like that. I think that's what's happening there. I used to not be crazy about that skill, but it has really grown on me. I used to just not like it because I just felt it was a waste of skill points, because again, you already had defensive mechanics like health gate and fight for your life. And again, you know, death not being punishing in most aspects of the game, but it did grow on me over time. But yeah, guys, next few videos, I'm gonna have a Heavy Trooper Axton build, Hunter Titan Zero build, Sniper Zero guide. I'm gonna have a melee gameplay montage taking on OP10, you know, different bossing, different enemies like in the Hammerlock DLC, weapon reviews. So yeah, we'll get all that out, and then I'll see where we're standing from there. Again, I will put this save file in the description if you guys want to download it, and I'll go back and hit the TNT Axton build as well, and then I'll try to get the other ones after that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thanks to Legan Weirdna for being a Veracitous Slayer channel member. Really appreciate the support. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and I hope to see you next time.
Prepare for a great deal of tech.